Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to my segment from the ground up where we interview entrepreneurs. My name is C. I am the owner of CLM Custom Designs. I am on Etsy, I am on Shopify now, and I am on YouTube. So check me out on all those platforms. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. But make sure you check me out. And before we get any further, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any more of my videos. You'll always be notified when they are going to drop. So now we can get into it. We are back into our segment. I was gone for a little while. Vacation is over. We're back to business. And we have Miss Keosha Jones with us. So, Miss Keosha, introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Well, my name is Keosha Jones, and I am a holistic productivity coach for men and women who have or identify with ADHD. And I help them to create small, sustainable habits while using their brain for them and not against them. And my area of expertise with them is especially when it comes down to reading, study, learning, and also engaging in particular activities surrounding their spiritual things.
Okay. So you said men and women. Do you do children as well? Is there a certain age you start at or?
Well, I have not worked with any children so far. And men and women in general, it's women in their mid 20s that I've worked with, men in their 30s, and I've worked with women all the way up into their 60s.
Okay. So tell me, how does one fall into this space? Doesn't seem like something I would ever think of. So tell me how you got here.
Okay, so there's definitely a story. I'm going to try to give you the condensed version.
We got time to give it to us. Okay.
All right, so how I ended up coaching, period, was
Okay.
because of my volunteer work. I wanted to be able to help others, like in the past, do the same thing that I did. So I would help them with their schedules, help them break it down so that they wouldn't feel overwhelmed if they miss time, so that they can meet the requirement, all of that. And then I got connected with another coach who helped me see that, hey, you can turn this into a business. It was an idea for me, but then it helped me have a reality that, okay, this is something I can do. Fast forward, pandemic hits. I'm immunocompromised due to my health, and I did not want to work in the hospital anymore.
Oh.
So my business was born. And then back in November of 2021, I did studies on ADHD to see if it could help my clients, because procrastination and time management was one of their biggest issues. I also have a degree in physical therapy, so that's why I was doing that as well, to keep my credentials up. And then when I went through that, I was like, oh, that explains my life.
Oh, okay.
And it also explains the way my clients look. And I was like, okay, so we're just going to claim it and we're going to name it. And that's how I started working with individuals with ADHD.
Okay. So I'm just going to try to unpack some of that real quick to make sure that I have it. So basically, it sounded like you might have been experiencing some things and maybe not have identified what they were.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Some things I just thought they were normal because it was just what I had lived with,
right?
but didn't understand that there was a reason for it and not that this is what a typical brain would do.
Gotcha. Which makes sense, because if that's what you do and that's all you know, then you do think that that is normal. And so then you start to just get into the space where you're just helping people get organized. You just kind of helping people clean up their lives and keep things moving. And then as you see that those things are working for you, you realize, there's a connection here. And so now you want to kind of really hone down your niche to just working with people with ADHD, right?
Right.
Okay. And again, you were in the healthcare field already, so not necessarily a large jump, even though you were doing physical therapy, that kind of still lends itself. And then pandemic, which we always talk about because pandemic has born a whole lot of entrepreneurs, but no doubt being in the healthcare field, a lot of people kind of didn't want to be involved in that when pandemic hit, because those were the high numbers were. So then you decide, okay, we'll just take this from, just helping here and there to a full-blown business. So what did you do? Did you just decide? Because now this is what you do. You no longer are doing anything else but this. So do you just decide, okay, I'm not going back, so this is it? Was there a plan? Like, how does that work?
So what happened, like when I was helping people prior to while doing physical therapy, that was just for fun. Like I didn't get paid for
Okay.
that. It wasn't until after the pandemic that I started to get paid for what I do and like and market it. There was a bridge in between um, me doing that. I partnered with another company that was an MLM/direct sales company, and that business gave me the confidence to actually step into doing this one when I realized I did not want to go back to work
Okay.
for doing therapy because of the pandemic. So I just decided that at one point I was just like I don't want to go back, and because I have more freedom and more flexibility with my time and income wise, let's just be real, the potential for earning
Yeah.
is much greater for me than if I were to have stayed doing therapy. As much as I loved it, it just was not, it just did not help me see how I was going to do what I wanted to do with my life.
Gotcha. So does this involve now going back to school for another type of degree? Does it involve research? Because now that you want to turn this into a business, though, we got to have a business plan to like get it to where it needs to be so that you can start your earning potential. Because now this is your sole support. It's no longer for fun, as you said now,
Right.
right? You have to pay bills. So what does that look like?
So what I did, I have a certification in essential oil, so I went to school for that because that is an integral part of what I do to help my clients not only focus but help them with emotional regulation, which is another piece that comes with ADHD. But I also have two certifications in coaching from an international company in the UK that's for therapists. So certifications that give me leverage to learn what to how and for the client that come into my space.
Okay. Okay. You froze up a little bit, but it just sounded like you had already had some credentials from the therapy side and you just kind of added on to those things. So, kind of like you're researching and doing these things as you're also going along, because obviously this wasn't a space that you were in, right?
Right.
But I think that this is interesting because it is really a pivot point because now it's kind of like, how do you all of a sudden, I mean, you literally just stopped your income on the one hand and had to pivot and create another one fairly quickly, right? So it goes to show, I always say that necessity is the mother of invention. So you realize, okay, I do not want to go back to work, but I got to make this work too. And
Mm-hmm.
not knowing whether it would or not, you kind of said, I'm just going to step out here and try it because you don't know until you try it, right? And I know with coaching, there's so many coaches. I say it all the time. It's kind of like crafting. There's so many crafters. There's so many coaches. So sometimes that can be intimidating for people because it's like, oh, yet another coach, right?
Right.
So did you have any hesitation where you like, I don't know, or was it like this has to work?
Yeah, it was a this has to work. And I'm not going to lie, there have been times where I'm like, I don't know, I think I'm going to quit and go back to work. And then I get snapped right back into reality real quick. But I'm like, nope, that's not going to work for the way I want to live. Like I always, when I get in that space, that's what I remind myself of. It's not going to support the way I want to live.
Gotcha. And it sounds like not so much financially, but freedom
Yeah.
is more important, sometimes than the financial piece of it. And I think that that's a key point because sometimes I think we all need to remind ourselves of that when we get frustrated and we get down and whatever, we have to remind ourselves the reason why we took this on was so that we could have that freedom, you
Right.
know. And entrepreneurship isn't easy. It's not for the faint of heart. I always say it's the journey, not a sprint. So, even as a coach who helps people deal with that, you have to deal with that with yourself and kind of manage yourself and talk yourself through it and say, hey, okay, let's snap yourself back and realize that this is why it's for this freedom. So how did you partner with someone to get your clients? Was it just word of mouth? Were you advertising? Like what were you doing to really?
So my first client, it's an interesting story. She started her business during the pandemic. We have mutual friends. She friended me because of her business, and then we connected. And I had started my business, all like marketing already. And then I said, I'm looking for 2 clients. Like that was one of my first posts about wanting to have a client. And I reached out to her and I was like, would you like to be one of them? And we met, and she said yes. Like it was just that, it was just that simple.
Okay. So you
Um,
just ask for what you want. I want a
yeah.
client. Here you go.
Yes.
Doesn't get any more simpler than that. Ask for
Yeah.
what you want.
So that's how that started. And then, but at the time I was also doing like following another coach who has become one of my best friends. And that was something that I knew I needed, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I
Okay.
don't know how I'm going to do this. And I knew that I needed help. So I invested in a coach.
Okay.
And there's very short spurts of time within my business journey that I've not had one, because coaches, like it is a thing. Coaches need coaches for one of those reasons, with the mindset thing of I want to quit. They're also there to remind you of why you don't want to, if you can't snap yourself out of it, and other mindset things so that you can continue to grow.
I absolutely love that because you are a partaker of your own product because you recognize the need. And so I love that, because people may look at entrepreneurs and look at people and they look like they got it all together, and it's like, oh yeah, I just quit my job and I did this and did that. But there's steps behind that too. So the things that you're telling people to do, you're also working your program, so you're not just telling people what to do, but you're kind of going through those steps with them as well, because you recognize that that's the way it has to be. Let's see, Olivia is saying, yep, always say coaches need coaches. And that's absolutely true. And I think that's also kind of how you retain business, because people like to know that they're like you. You don't have this perfect life, you know what I mean? And you see a need for this. So that tells them it's okay for me to do this, because, it also helps me to appreciate it. I'm sure other people, that you're staying up on what you do because you got somebody coaching you. You know
Right.
what I mean? So you have the resources to come back and to give them, what they need, because you're working these things to see, hey, this is what you do, this is what you don't do, this is working for me, this may work for you. So I absolutely love that you do that. The other thing that I heard you say is you needed to network. You didn't know what you were doing when you started. And that's the thing I try to tell people with business. You don't just wake up and know how to do a business. You don't. You have to reach out to people who are doing it, who are successful. You need those people around you so they can kind of guide you. They've already done the hard work. And that's one of the reasons why I do this, because I feel like these are people who are doing it. So we're giving nuggets to other people, so they don't have to make some of the same mistakes that we've made. You know what I mean? And so I think that is so valuable, especially in a world where people are afraid to do that because they feel like you're going to take something from them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's enough to go around. So I never, ever believe that. But that's what I tell people: surround yourself with good people, get yourself a network, people who are willing to share with you, and then pay that forward. Once you get that knowledge, you find someone else that you can then give that knowledge to, just like someone gave it to you. So I think that is absolutely awesome. So is what you do mostly virtual? Because of course, again, that's something that the pandemic introduced.
Right. Yes, it is mostly virtual. I've only met with, I think, one client in the entire history of my business in person, and that was just last week.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So, like, I've done, like, I've had conversations with people, like friends and stuff like that, about what I do, but as in like holding sessions, no, I've not done just the one.
Okay.
Yep.
Which is another thing, because it doesn't have to be face to face. As I mentioned, that's something the pandemic taught us. There's a lot of business that's conducted on Zoom, on whatever platform, YouTube, all type of things that can still be successful and beneficial without you having to physically be with people. And I love that because it fits into people's lifetime. People don't always have an hour or two to sit down on someone's couch. And also that can be very intimidating. But if I can talk to you behind my computer, you know what I mean? Or if I can drive and have you talking to me, you know what I mean? It just frees up so much time, and it fits into other people's lifestyle. So Um,
Another thing too is it opens up the world of who you can serve, because distance, you can travel across time zones. Like I've had clients in California, I've had one in Hawaii, so it just opens up the world literally for the amount of clientele. I have one client in Canada, another one in my membership that's in Canada. So it's a beautiful thing to have the availability of the whole world.
yeah, that's definitely nice. It expands your clientele. So that is definitely awesome. So how long have you been doing this?
So it will be 3 years in May of 2020.
Okay, so fairly new. I would still consider you to
Mhm.
be a new entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Looking back, would you say are there things that you wish you would have done a little differently now that you could have avoided maybe some pitfalls?
Um, I would definitely say that it's more of a mindset, self-worth thing.
Okay.
Um, One of the things that I did learn along the way that I didn't understand when I started is that your value is not commensurate with the amount of money you bring in.
I love that.
Once
Say that again.
your value is not commensurate with the amount of money you bring in.
Love it.
That's the one thing that I wish I would have learned earlier, but it wasn't too late.
Okay.
It wasn't too late. It was probably around in the middle somewhere. Um, and one of the other things too is that life affects the way you also view and approach your business. And so when you feel a certain way about yourself in life, it comes out in your business. And so I really try to pay attention to that from learning that particular thing, and start asking myself questions around it to make sure what's going on up here, so that I can clear through that and it not impact my business.
I think those are two very important things, but two very hard things to learn. So that's good that you learned them early because I think that that's something that I know I still struggle with. Um, because a lot of times you look at other people and see perhaps what they're doing, maybe whether it's how much they're making financially, or maybe it's how many clients they have, or how many subscribers they have on YouTube, and you kind of feel like, oh, I don't have that many, so my impact isn't that great, or I'm not doing a good of a job. I should be doing better, or what have you. But as you mentioned, that's not the sum of it. If you can impact one person and change their life, that's a success. And so sometimes we have to look at those small successes because not everything is huge when you're an entrepreneur. You don't necessarily get those really huge wins. So we have to kind of really take stock of the small victories that we have, and we have to allow that to nurture us and feed us because otherwise it will be hard to stay on this path because eventually you may get there, but like you were saying, within the first couple of years, chances are most people are suffering losses in their business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're not seeing those really big things, so you have to really understand that that's not what it is. I mean, it's good to pay attention to those things, as Olivia will attest to, but not to let them overwhelm you to the point where they kind of freeze you in your space and you're so concentrated on that. So that's good. But the other thing that you said about checking yourself and your attitude, because it's going to show up in your business, which is true. Because if you have a bad day, and I say this all the time, like I don't work at night, meaning that I try not to craft at night because I'm not in the best space at night. I'm tired, I'm run down from the day. And I know that equals mistakes in my business. And when I make mistakes, then I'm wasting product, I'm losing money, and then I'm getting frustrated. So that's not a good time to work for me.
Right.
I will get up at 4 in the morning and I can bang some stuff out and I am great. I'm in a good mind space. I've had a good sleep. I've had no distractions or no bad things happen to me as of yet, typically. So I think that's important to kind of check yourself and see where you are before you start your day, before you go into it. But that's also, like you said, in terms of making sure that you're good, making sure you're checking in with your coach or whomever that you need to check in with to make sure that you're right. So I absolutely love that. And you mentioned essential oils. Do you also medicate with yours, or is your approach is holistic? So I'm assuming that takes the element of medicine out of it, and you're just kind of really just kind of working with them to get through their
So no, I'm not a therapist in the traditional sense
Okay.
of um, like a psychologist or psychiatrist. So I cannot and do not prescribe medication.
Gotcha.
I work with essential oils with my clients if they some of them are medicated, some of them are not. But
Okay.
what I do is I do cross check their drugs to make sure that what I am recommending to them with the oils do not have a negative impact on them, whether it's for their ADHD that they're on meds or for something else. Because some of my clients are unmedicated.
Gotcha.
So that's what that is. Like my therapy license is in physical therapy.
Gotcha. 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 This aromatherapy thing is really getting big. You're like the second person I've interviewed that talks about like aromatherapy is like where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, every time I see an oil now, I don't know what it does or what it's for, but I'm like, I need to have that oil. So because it's got to be great. So I've been on this quest of buying all these oils. One day I'll sit down and figure out what they do, but I just love them in my diffuser. Aside from the fact that they make the room smell good, they kind of put me in a good mood too. So that's great, and I can walk away from them and not feel like something's going to burn down. So that's
Yeah.
great. Let's see what Serena is asking. Oh, she's saying, I know a couple of adults with ADHD. Can you talk about how they assist? I'm assuming she means the essential oils, how they assist with the ADHD.
Yes, I definitely can. So there are some oils that help with releasing what's called dopamine, which is one of the chemicals in the brain that is responsible for pleasure, motivation, and I always get to the third thing and blank out. As you can tell, that's part of ADHD, my working memory. Third thing almost always lapses and is like, oh, well, it'll come back to me later.
Right.
Um, so there are some oils that help with that. And I have this one experience of one of my clients. I loved it. I had already created a blend for her based on some things that she needed. And she was like, I just can't get started on what I want to do. And I was like, well, add some lemon to it. She added lemon to the particular blend that I already had. And she was like, I got up and I went and cleaned. So using essential oils can actually increase motivation to do things. I forgot. Sometimes I forget that this desk does that. But anyway.
Yeah.
And then some of them actually help you increase focus and increase cognition. So based on that, I can create blends for the properties. So I might use 2 or 3 oils in harmony that all work with cognition so that it can enhance that. There are some that help with low mood and feelings of anxiousness so that you can regulate the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So based on what's going on with the person, I take a look at that and create blends around those things so that they are able to have a more stable mood and increase their focus and engage their mind more.
So do you sell oils? Like, do you have an oil line that's like, say, this is for this is for this, so we could just go and say, okay, I'm feeling this and I'm going to pick this up from Keosha?
No, I don't. That's because that's just one thing. Back to what we were talking about before we started, minimalist. I'm not about to do that. So what I do is I have a company that I know produces safe oils, because that is another thing that I teach my clients is oil safety, because not every oil that you see on a shelf is good for your body. Some of them are actually toxic, so you want to be careful.
No, good to know.
Yeah.
Probably
So
picking up and good.
yeah. So what I do is I help them to choose the oils based on, like I said, when I check the meds, and I send them a link to a company that I refer to, and then I just get the rewards points. Like I don't even want to deal with cash. I don't want to have nothing else to put on my taxes.
Understood.
And then tell them that, what they need to buy and the ratios and things of that nature so that they're not oversaturating with oils as well, because you can do that too. It can be harmful.
So it sounds like I'm hearing we're talking oils to put on the body, not necessarily in diffusers.
No, yeah, they can do it on the body in diffuser, or use something like this, which is called an inhaler that they can actually put in their pocket and take with them and use as needed.
Oh, that looks like Vicks. I love a Vicks stick.
Right. Yeah. And they buy the oils, and there's a wick that you put inside, and you put the oils on there, put it in, close it up, and then you just carry it with you.
Oh my goodness. I would love that. I would probably be inhaling way too much. They'd be like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I'm high off of peppermint. I'm high off of peppermint. I absolutely love that though. So let me see. Can someone call you and just discuss a blend, or are you more of like you have to track the person? So if I just say, hey, I just want to blend for because I'm tired and I'm whatever. Can you just tell me what blend, and someone can just like pay you to get a blend together? I mean, I know
They
they're buying it from someplace else, but
Yeah, they can pay me for that, but I do take a client history form
okay,
just to make sure with the meds and who's in the household, because there are certain oils that are not good for animals or for children.
okay.
So I check all of that to make sure that you're going to be safe with whatever it is that I recommend.
Got it. Okay. So she's not playing. She's about her business. Don't be just calling her for no. She's not a dealer. She like, hey, I take history. I make sure things are good. And that's great because the minute that you don't, someone will say, oh, you recommended this and I broke out and,
Mm-hmm.
my face is drooping on the side, all kind of crazy stuff. But that is fascinating to know. I never would have thought like there were bad oils for you, but I guess like anything else, there's better grades, of things
Right.
like that. But that is absolutely fascinating. So is this something you've always thought about, or is it just literally because of like did you use oils when you were doing the therapy and
So I I also have a chronic illness. I have rheumatoid arthritis.
oh,
So
say no more, I'm right there with you.
okay. So I started using them to help with that, and then it just kind of fell off because I started doing something else with the other business, and that helped me get my health in check the way I
Okay.
wanted it to be. But as we all learned in the pandemic, that some of us were dealing with some things we didn't know we was dealing with until we sat down.
Yeah, the pandemic brought out a whole lot of acronyms, ADHD, all PSD. It brought out a whole lot of
A
stuff.
whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've always had issues with emotional regulation. I just didn't really realize it. Like, if somebody interrupted me, I was ready to snap at you. Like, if I was knee deep, but I understand, one, it took me a long time to focus, so it would be irritating. But two, I would be up and down like this sometimes, and it just wouldn't make sense. And I never understood, why was I so irritated when somebody interrupted me? But that
Right.
is a thing with ADHD.
Okay.
Emotional regulation, the bursts are very sharp, and they happen very quickly. That's what's different between that and bipolar. Bipolar, your manic and depressive episodes are strings of weeks. You can have manic and depressive episodes in a day with ADHD. Like,
Mm.
not necessarily manic, but like super high activity and then drop. Like, and that can happen even several times throughout a day with a person who has ADHD.
Yeah.
So, and there were some other deeper seated things that came up that I was like, I just need some help. And I was, through my one coach that I had to start my business, she introduced me to another coach who worked on mood regulation.
Gotcha.
So essential oils and aromatherapy was the main piece of what she used. And
Okay.
so when she launched her school for, again, for essential oils, I was like, this is a no-brainer
Mm-hmm.
because of how much it helped me. I'm like, I know this is going to help my clients.
Gotcha. So, do you recognize any people? Because, like I said, I think we all have a touch of ADHD. It's just a matter of where you're at on the spectrum. But can you like look at somebody and say, yeah, like, because somebody might think I don't have it. I got, I get irritated when people interrupt me, but that's just don't interrupt me, right? So are you able to kind of say, hey, maybe this is something you might want to look at, or how does that work?
So I generally don't tell people, but I see it. And then I let what they read in my content help them see whether or not it's something that they identify with. And I do encourage them, if they do feel like it, then they need to go and get a formal diagnosis. You don't have to have a formal diagnosis to work with me.
Okay.
But if they are wanting it, I do say, hey, go, you know, go find out. But if not, it's still available. But yes, it does not take me very long to see certain things. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what that is.
That's all. That's always fun. But I think you do that in whatever profession you're in. Because I laugh. I do crafts, and so like when we were on vacation, and you're trying to get souvenirs for people, and I'm like, I can make that. Like I can make that. I'm not buying that. I can make that. And my husband's like, but you can't make it from the island. Just go on and get it. But it's like whatever you do, you're noticing it, and it becomes so hard not to like do things like that. It's hilarious. So yeah, I can definitely understand. She said, Demita said you told the whole family.
Oh, that's my mother.
Oh, that's your, oh, okay. She's only holding back on the strangers, Ma. She's letting family know go get checked out. I understand. We can kind of let loose on family just a little bit. So you're in this business 3 years now. You've given up, your regular 9 to 5. You got this freedom. You're doing your thing. What are some of the challenges? Because you did it in 3 years, and that is remarkable. But that doesn't typically happen for people like that. They don't just quit their job and are able to sustain themselves. So I don't want people running out here quitting, because we ain't saying doing that. But so what are some of the challenges though that you found with kind of going into your own space? Because we want to be realistic. We want to tell the good, but we also want to tell them about
of course. For me, was finding the balance of doing too much and not enough. Because sometimes you feel like you have to do, and you don't give yourself enough space, and you can burn yourself out. And then, like I said, with the whole mindset piece, perfectionism is a problem that I have. And that's an inherent thing with ADHD. Like you almost can't separate perfectionism and ADHD. It just shows up. And for me, that was one of my biggest challenges, was wanting everything to be perfectly in place before I did this, or before I did that, or before I did this. And that holds you back from taking the action that makes your business grow.
Okay.
And my coach was like, Keosha, just do it messy.
That's hard. That's hard for a lot of people. I know, and my mentor is on, if she's still on, and she probably can speak to that, because like with the whole YouTube thing, I wanted to be perfect. I wanted to put out a perfect video. I wanted everything to be like right, and so I would never put out a video. She's like, look, just put it out there, like, because people don't know what they don't know, so they don't know if it's messy, if it's perfect, if it's great. It's something that we create in our mind, and you're right, it holds us back. Sometimes I wonder, do we do that intentionally so we don't have to put it out there?
Yeah, because then you don't feel hurt if it doesn't get received the way you expected it to be.
Absolutely. I would definitely agree with that, because when you only got one view on the video, you like, that only took me 2 hours to get together, and only one people looked. So
and one of the things that when that happens with me, I'm like, it's all right. I know my content was good. Like I literally have that conversation with myself. So when you get to seeing that, hey, you don't have the views that you want or the numbers that you want, know that you yourself gave your best. And that's what is going to help in that, because not everybody is going to validate you. The validation has to come up from within first.
Absolutely. I would definitely agree. So where do you see your business going? So we're at 3 years now. Let's say at 5 years, 6 years, where do you see PPC going?
I see PPC going even more globally. What I would love to see is to have a client off of this continent. That's what I would like. But what I really want to see it do is allow me to be able to travel more, especially with what I do in my volunteer ministry or the construction, things of that nature. I see it going with me wherever I go.
That's kind of nice. So no hold back. Wherever you go, you can work, which is nice to be on a beach by the water working. Like this is my office space. Yes, yes. I want that to be me one day. One day maybe I'll get there. Okay, so you just see more of the same, but just on a grander scale. So that's nice. And business is something that you constantly have to keep up on the latest. Things always change. There's always something new, or something they say you shouldn't be doing that you've been doing for the past however long, and now they don't want you to do that. So, keeping up on whatever your industry is, constantly learning. We are going to be lifelong learners
Yes.
of whatever the trade is that we're going through. And then also I think being able to say, I don't know, but I'll get back to you. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Because we don't know everything. Sometimes we have to do research and we have to figure it out and get back to the person. So all of that is just awesome. But I am fascinated by the things that I've heard so far. Definitely on the rheumatoid arthritis front. So we'll be talking
Yes.
some more about that because if that means I can take a couple of less pills and just rub something on, I will definitely be down for that ride for sure.
Okay.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. So, if you had like three nuggets that you could drop with entrepreneurs, what would you tell them?
The first thing I would say is don't give up so quickly. And the reason why is because we're so used to wanting instant gratification. Find the instant gratification somewhere else in your business besides money. That's the number one tip that I would give so that you don't give up. And always remember why you're doing what you're doing because your business is just as much for you as it is for the other person. So when you remember that and you constantly remind yourself what you want your life to look like having that vision, that's going to keep you going. The other thing that I would say is find your people.
Hmm.
Find the people who are going to support you. Like my mom, she's one of the most grounding people when I'm talking junk and she's like, or she can see when another thing is not working. Sometimes you also need that outside perspective to see when something isn't working because you may want it to work so bad, but you're like, and that you're in it, but somebody outside of you can give you that view. So have good people in your space. Number 3, invest
Hmm.
in your business. This is a straight up thing. I told somebody this the other day. I said, I would not invest in you because you haven't invested in yourself and
Okay.
your business. If people don't see you investing, they're not going to see you as taking your business seriously. It's more like a hobby. And if you want them to put money into you, they need to see you're putting money somewhere else.
Got it. So
So those
whether
would be
that
my
be
3 things.
training or products or whatever, yeah, that's true because if you can't ask other people to invest when you're not vested,
Yep,
that's you got to be all in if you want someone else to be all in, and that's the truth. And because they don't think you're worth it. If you don't think you're worth it, then why would they even think that you are worth it?
that's it.
So yeah, I definitely would definitely say that. And then I also like to add too, price yourself well. Because
Yes.
if you're and I hate to use the word cheap, I use the word inexpensive, but if you're the cheapest, the people are gonna think you're giving out cheap stuff, whether it's material, advice, or whatever. Because how is it that you are able to charge $5 and everybody else is starting at 20? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so don't try to think, oh, I'm gonna price low so that I can get this, because that triggers something to someone else. And it also means that you don't value yourself. But that
Yes.
goes back to finding your people, because your people are going to pay for you.
Right.
Like we said, there's plenty of coaches, there's plenty of craft people out there. People don't come to you for what you sell, what you, I mean, they just don't, because they can buy that from anybody else. They come to you for you. And that was something that took me a long time, because I was like, everybody's doing it. No one's going to come to me. But, and as my mentor would say, who's on here, but there is no more you. You are you, and that's it. And so now I always say to people, there's a McDonald's and a Burger King on every corner, and neither one goes out of business, because there's enough. There's people who like Burger King, and there's people who like McDonald's. So I would definitely say that those are some key points that we have brought out today. So I think this has been, like I said, fascinating. Every time I talk to someone, I learn something new. Like, we're gonna have to all do a retreat sometime and get together and kind of like, this is awesome. I love this, because I learn something every time I talk to someone. I take something away, I write it down in my little notebook, and I go over it, because I'll be saving all these little gems to give myself pep talks and all.
I love that.
Ready to fall off the wagon and be like, this is just not for me. So I absolutely love that. I thank you so much for spending some time with us this evening. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience? Anything? Well, first of all, tell the people where they can find you if they
Yes.
want to. That's definitely.
Yeah, well, you can find me on Instagram at Pink Pro Co. Like I said, super minimalistic in the way that I run my business, because that's the way I want my life to be. So that is where you can go and find all kinds of content. Feel free to reach out to me in my DMs. I'm available. I'm not one of those people who doesn't respond to them. So one other thing that I would like to say is, when I mentioned also your people, find the people who also know your worth, and that will, like you mentioned with your pricing, will help you see that your pricing isn't right, because that's me. Some even most recently, I was thinking, because sometimes I can be very linear in my thinking. Sometimes you need somebody who's outside of that, who brings the value aspect of it. Not that I didn't value what I did, my thought process was linear. So having people who can take a look at that and be like, okay, that ain't enough.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You do.
Yeah.
It's so funny you should say that, because someone ordered something from me and I gave them the prices, and she was like, your prices are way too low. So like, I'm not even going to pay you that. I'm going to pay you that, and it was almost like I was like afraid to, like, do I really want to, because it's a weird thing when it comes to pricing for me. That's always my Achilles heel. One day I just want to have a price sheet and send it to people, so I don't have to talk about it. You know what I mean? So you could just see it and you could decide. But yeah, that's a tough thing. And it's not that you devalue what you're doing. It's almost like you don't want to offend the person who's asking you what your price is. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe I didn't talk to you about that, because that's got something going on with me, and
Okay.
why I can't price right. But yeah, definitely, I would definitely say that. So there's just so many things that go into this whole entrepreneurial thing. And so that it's great that people can reach out to you or DM you and you will answer them. I absolutely love that. That's the type of people that I want to surround myself around. Good people, definitely, that can hold you down, because you can't do this by yourself. You cannot do this by yourself. It takes good people. It takes your family members. It takes your good friends. It takes people in your corner. Like Olivia said, yes, you need a whole squad. Like my girlfriend Serena tries to be at every one of these things. If no one else is here, she's going to be there in the chat. There's just something to be said about support. And so we just need to make sure that we support each other and give back. And so I try to keep in touch with everybody that I talk with on my show, keep up with them, see what they're doing, support them in whatever way you can. It's not necessarily monetarily, but hey, it just might be a, hey, how you doing today? You know what I mean? Whatever it takes, because again, this journey is not always easy. Sometimes it's tough, and we just need someone to tell us just to keep going. So I want to thank everybody who was in the chat with us. I want to thank everybody who was in our squads for supporting us. And I want to thank you most of all, Keosha, for sitting down. And I know this was kind of like snuck up on us last minute, and but I appreciate you getting in it. And I do want to mention this, and then I'm getting off, because I can talk way too much. But I love that you keep saying minimalist, because some people view success by things that you have, a big house, a big boat, a big car, but that's not success. Some people who have loads of money probably don't have any of those things. You know what I mean? So I love the fact, and I have to shout this out since you were saying you live in a tiny house. I love that. I just love that. You know what I mean? But it affords you to live how you want to live. You can go and you can do whatever and all of that. So people, please do not look at what people have or do not have and assume, because people with all those things are probably some of the poorest people that you know because of how they spend their money. But do not let that be your measure. That does not, it's not about other people and how they see you. It's about how you feel, the things that you're doing. So I just want to say that. So I absolutely love the minimalistic, and that's a whole movement too on everywhere. Just people living minimalistically and showing you how to do that. So yeah. Anyway, I am going to let everyone go because I appreciate you hanging out with us. I am going to end this. Make sure if you have not subscribed to my channel that you go and do that. Make sure you check Keosha out on her Instagram, guys. But for Friday evening, appreciate it. Thanks so much. Hang on one second. I'm going to let everybody else go.
Alrighty.